Good evening, UTD. Well, it's certainly hey, that'll help. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Certainly a pleasure to be here. Excuse me. What? Why are you guys looking at me like that? Oh, that. Okay. That's true. Yes, I did just throw a plastic bottle in a trash can. My apologies. I mean, come on, we've all done it, right? It's just a plastic bottle. Doesn't hurt anything, does it? Or does it? I mean, come on, it's human nature. It's behavior. Could we change it if we wanted to? Actually, I think we can. And one way we can do it is through design. Now, when I say design, I come from the industrial design world, and when I say design, people think of wonderful objects made of beautiful, brilliant colors and textures, shiny surfaces, things that perform wonderful activities for us in life. Might also be something with a wonderful, flashy interface that has incredibly zoomy gestures for operating the virtual environment, right? And yes, this is design. In fact, it's awesome design. It's great design. Yet the design I want to talk to you about tonight is taking it beyond just form, fit, and function. Taking design to a place where we can actually change behaviors and even create new cultures. A while back, we were approached by one of our clients, Newell Rubbermaid, and a division of Newell Rubbermaid, RCP, Rubbermaid Commercial Products. If you guys are familiar with like the Brute trash cans or the Slim Jims, you'll see them anywhere on campus. You'll see them in many commercial, industrial buildings, even residential. They have customers around the world, and they came to us and said, we would like you to use your design thinking skills, your processes, and your techniques to see if you can solve a problem. And the problem was, can we increase recycling diversion rates, and in this case, multi-tenant commercial properties? So i.e. what that means is, can we get people to throw more stuff in a recycling bin and less in a trash can in big, tall business towers? Pretty cool assignment. Now, let's look a little further into this particular situation. Right here in Dallas, Texas, downtown Dallas, we have over 30 buildings that actually are taller than 10 stories tall. And in fact, if you look at it closer, you'll find that those 30-plus buildings are made up of over 1,200 floors. Now, it's not unlikely that each one of these tenants that operate in these towers are left to their own devices to make up their own recycling program. So right here, just in Dallas, Texas alone, downtown, you could have over 1,200 different recycling programs running of various degrees of success and potential failure. Let's take a little ride. Let's head off to New York City. In New York, they have over 6,100 buildings over 10 stories tall. And interestingly enough, if you look at how those are comprised and how many floors, over 115,000 floors make up the 6,100 plus buildings in New York City. So now all of a sudden we're starting to see the magnitude of this issue and the scale in which we're looking at. Also in New York City, it's also estimated that there are 2.8 to 3 million people per day operating within New York City during the business hours on any given day and any given business week. So think about it for a minute. All these people are coming back from their lunch break. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. They're all sporting a coffee can, or a coffee cup or a soda can, right? And it's up to them to make a split-second decision on where that item is going to go when they're ready to dispose of it. Now, as an individual, tossing that plastic water bottle in the trash, not so much a big deal. But just think, at that same moment in time, millions of people are actually making that same exact decision. And what's really interesting is we have to make sure that they have the opportunity and they're in the right environment to be able to perform the task with success and not failure. Let's head on back here to Texas. I'm happy to say that we were able to launch the project. There were some wonderful companies right here in Texas that worked with us in buildings that actually worked with us on the program. We had one spectacular company that actually allowed us not only to interview their employees and watch their employees throw away their trash, believe it or not, that's one of the techniques, and deploy our ideas. They actually let us dig through their trash. And yes, this was truly a messy situation. We were knee-deep in trash, really getting into our business, into our work here. But I can tell you that they let us go in and look at, and what we performed is what we call a trash audit. And so we actually gathered their trash on intervals before we installed our new ideas. And in this case, you can see in this picture right here, there's even a situation where this is the trash coming from a company of about 80 people that were on one of the floors in this building. All this right here is plastics and aluminum that actually came right out of the garbage. If you look up here, this is a situation where all that is paper and cardboard that could have made its way to the recycling bin but didn't. In fact, after we performed a series of trash audits prior to installing our ideas, only 11% of the waste that should have been making its way, only 11% of the waste actually was making it to the recycling bin. We know we can do better. I'm also happy to report that after the project, after we installed the ideas, we were able to get something to look more like this. This actually is the paper waste that was now no longer being diverted to the garbage, but actually diverted directly to the recycling bin. And I'm happy to say, in this case, we increased it to 57% of a diversion rate for this one company just by installing some of these ideas. So, what's this all mean? What I wanted to share with you when I'm talking about this level of design and design thinking, as some of you may have heard it called, I want to share with you a couple of design traits and characteristics that are important to designers and how they do design thinking, but I think it's important that the entire audience has the opportunity to understand what some of these traits are, because we can all deploy them. And the first one that I'd like to talk to you about, and they just happen to be the 4 C's of design thinking. The first one is what I like to call curiosity. And curiosity is just stopping, and what I like to refer to as observing the obvious, right? A lot of people will just walk on by and say, there's nothing to see here, just keep moving, when really there is. Because we can stop and say, wait a minute, what's going on here? And we can ask questions. And in fact, in today's world where we all have our smartphones and we just want to Google or we want to ask Siri, I have a question, give me an answer, and I want it right now. When we can stop and ask questions of people and say, why did you toss that in the trash? Why did you put that soda can in the garbage? It's amazing some of the responses you'll find out when you just take time to stop and ask the questions and be curious. The next C on our list, I like to refer to as compassion. Now, in design thinking, there's a word we like to use called empathy, right? Do you have empathy for the user? Can you stand in their shoes or sit in their seat? Can you understand their world? I like to take it to compassion. Not only can we understand their pain points, but can we actually help them? Can we actually look for answers and help them bring new solutions? Interestingly enough, in the case of this, when we asked our curious questions, some of the responses we got back were, they don't pay me to throw away my trash. Or, I recycle all the time at home, but I don't do so much at the office. Now, one of my things I love to say is when you're out asking these questions, the second question to always ask is why. When we say, why don't you recycle in the office? Well, honestly, the recycling bin's down the hall, around the corner in the break room, and I'm lazy. I don't want to get up and take it there. Another thing you might find, just like this case in the break room where we took a picture, You know, I get there and there's all these bins and they're different sizes and they're crammed together and I'm not sure which one I'm supposed to use. Sometimes I can't even find the recycling bin. You know, it's easier to just throw it in the trash. It's just a water bottle, right? It's just me. Not thinking about the millions of others who are making that same decision at that same time. The third C that I want to highlight is what I like to call comprehension. Can you comprehend the totality of the opportunity? Can you look at the entire ecosystem of the situation? If you look at this is one thing we like to call a journey map. We create it during the project. But we think about what is the journey of that particular water bottle? What is the journey of that potential trash can or that person within that ecosystem? And it's amazing the opportunities that you can discover when you look at it zoomed out. In this particular case, you know, here's the glass, paper, plastic, those kind of materials that are winding up in the trash or in a recycling bin every day. And you have the enablers here, which obviously are these are the receptacles that, in this case, someone like Newell Roderman would fabricate. Believe it or not, I haven't told you that one of the conditions on the project was that we were not actually allowed to create a new trash can. They said they had enough trash cans in their portfolio. That wasn't the goal. The goal was, can we help increase these diversion rates by looking at other opportunities? Interestingly enough, there are a lot of people, there are a lot of layers that actually are formed inside this ecosystem. We found that there were obviously the patrons, those are the people that are actually performing the task of throwing away that article. But we also find that there's janitors and there's waste haulers. And on the outside layer and the influencers, you've got everybody from government to the property owner, the tenant, janitorial staff, and even the waste haulers that are going to take it off-site. All these people have something to do with this water bottle inside that ecosystem of that building. And one of my favorite areas we got to look at is where we called educate and consolidate. And that actually takes us to the fourth C. And that's the one I like to call creativity. Here's our opportunity as designers to really look at how we solve this problem creatively. If we can't just design the trash bin itself, what are the things we can do? We can obviously look at the way that we sign, the nomenclature, the icons that appear on that waste receptacle, but we can also go other places. And one place that we went to educate, and believe it or not, would you believe that we found out that people don't know how to throw away their trash? And that's really an interesting situation because people are like, yeah, it's just trash. So how do you help educate them in this situation when you don't want to insult their intelligence? So one of the things that we did was we actually put together a little brochure that said, here's what we can throw away. Here's what we can't. Here's what we can recycle. Here's what we can't. Can you believe that a coffee cup, believe it or not, is not recyclable? But it's odd because it's made of recycled material. Everybody assumes that once I'm done with it, I can toss it in recycling, but that's not necessarily the case because of the way that it's lined on the inside with the wax coating. So that alone, right, is one of the decision points every day that people have. And it could wind up in the wrong place and contaminate the stream. But these particular items were created and handed out to all employees. They were actually posted in their cubicles. We actually even gave a class on how to throw away your trash. A mandatory class, all 80 people attended. We made sure it was fun. Some interesting questions were asked. But we helped to educate them on how to actually dispose of their waste. The other things we found on the back end were things like, how can we actually help the janitorial staff or the custodial staff? Believe it or not, in these towers, what you find out is that, again, when you do the math, we're not talking about just a handful of waste bins. We're talking about thousands of waste bins that are being emptied every night. And if we can actually trim seconds off of each one of those receptacles being emptied, we can actually save minutes that transfer to hours to man weeks of time that can actually save cost and actually improve the working conditions for that janitorial staff. All these things in the ecosystem can be innovated on, which we find very, very interesting, which all led us to that 46% increase in this particular example. So, there you have it. The 4 C's, design thinking, get us to think a little bit further beyond just that one waste can and that one water bottle. We really want you to stop and think about the reality that when we think about design, It's beyond just this form, fit, and function. It can take us truly to an opportunity to change behaviors, create new cultures. We can look everywhere and anywhere we want and see opportunity for improvement and innovation. Even in this case, when we're just talking trash.